here there's a, can I show you something? There's
What?
the fire smoke detector is beeping every once in a while.
Okay.
Either means it needs a
Needs
battery.
a new battery. Yeah. Okay.
Well, just did it again. You hear it?
Okay, I did. Yeah. Todd was wondering what that was too. So. What am I trying to do? This. Hello, Billy Jacob. Did you find me on Skype yet or not? What's your name on Skype? Did you add me? Well, send me a text or something so I know. Did you add me, Mr. Pierre Paris? Hey, Carrie, how are you? Andrew will be here soon, I hope. I'm doing a bird watercolor right now, except I'm adding the volcano and the pyroclastic flow. And of course, I'm quite a different kind of artist than Andrew. Are we all here still? Carrie, are you still? I don't have enough hands. Who's still here? Looks like only one person is watching. I'm holding my pen, my brush vertically like Andrew was. Trying to do it the right way. You know, not quite the right way. I'm still holding it like a pen. Help! Chirp, 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 chirp. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. I have to add the chunks of boulders going up. And then swooshing down on top of the bird. There. It's about to be hit. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. If I were a bird and the sky was falling, would I be evacuating my bowels? Should I have a little bird dropping coming out? Or is that just a little too scatological? What do you think? What are your thoughts? Okay, put this away. Put this over here. So, Karina, what kind of pens do you like? Did you add me yet? Billy? Talk, talk. Type, type. Say things. I have a lot of pens here that are old and new. This is from the 20s, 1920s, 100 years old, almost. 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 30s, 60s, 40s, 50s, or 60s. I forget when they were made. Where's the Fex Technol when we need him? Okay. Karina, are you still here? Okay. What am I looking for? Karina. Uh-oh. Anyone still in the room? Hello? Let me see if I can turn my camera around here. I know how to do this. Hello. This is not easy to. Here's a big stub nib on a Schaefer pen. The nib is not a Schaefer, but it does fit this pen nicely, so it's sort of a Franken pen. It makes me want to write very vertically. And this one is really, really fine. It's pretty scratchy. It's slightly flexible. Come on. I think I have my Franken pen here. I do. And this nib is from 1880, gold dip pen nib. Very boingy boingy-y. What are you thinking, Karina? Talk. Don't be shy. Billy, did you add me yet? No. Go back to my bird. Add some feather details. Billy, that's your name on Biley. That's your name on on this. There are 3 Bileys. Which one are you? Well, there's all sorts of them. Which one are you? Add me. I'm Mr. Pierre Paris. There's probably only one. Biley. Add me. It's easier. I don't see you. You have to add me. I see Jacob Biley. I don't see Biley Jacob. So you add me. There I am again, Mr. Pierre Paris. I looked. Do you want me to look again? Missoula, United States. That's the only one I see. And I see Biley Jacob. I don't see Billy. So just add me. Sorry for being fussy. Karina, are you still here in the room? While I'm arguing with Biley. Did you add me? Or not? Search Billy. Mr. Pierre Paris, yes. All one word. All just one word. Just one big word. No underscores, no nothing. So you like mainly modern pens, right, Karina? For God's fuck's sake. What do you mean you can't find me? Send me an email. Pierre Gustafson Studio. So you like mainly modern pens, Karina? Send me an email. Oh, Billy Jacob won. Okay, let's see if that works. Is there an underscore? Okay. I don't see you. Send me an email, Billy. I don't know why it's not working. Contacts. I don't want contacts. I want all. Biley Jacob Cub 1. See, nothing's happening. Modern pens. Yeah, I'm a fan of the older ones, but modern pens weren't really being made when I started collecting. They haven't really been made with gusto until maybe a decade ago, really, um, when everyone is and his brother is making pens. So I'm really into the older ones. Send me an email, Billy. So, Billy, Pierre Gustafson Studio at gmail.com. Yeah, it's great meeting you too, Karina. I normally have about 6 people in this room chatting away about pens and stuff. I don't know where they all are, sleeping late maybe or something. I don't know. So send me an email, Billy. Pierre Gustafson Studio at Gmail, and we'll sort this out. Are you? I may have sent you something. See if I just sent you something. It may not be you. It might be some other Biley Jacob. But I sent something to Jacob Biley 1. It may not be you, but I have no idea. Okay, where are you from, Karina? Okay, see you later. Come back again sometime. Hey, hi there. Let me invite you in. Copy to clipboard. Edit. Paste. So click on that link, Andrew, and I will pull you into my vortex, and you may never leave. I posted it right here in chat. Paste. It's right, should be right there. Click on that, and it should bring you to Safari or Chrome, and then you join that way. You join outside of YouTube. Well, this is where we're broadcasting. Ah, huh. Why don't you see it? I wonder, are you using an iPhone? Let me try something here. Okay, that's the first. You see that thing? That's the first part of the URL, and this is the second part. So maybe there's a way for you to fuck. God damn it! Ignore the HTTPS // Do you see the? Do you see any of these? Okay, I guess if you go to your Okay, there are two halves. StreamYard.com/ and then the 8CMX5N2HSW. If you're, and I don't know why it's not automatically working. Maybe you have an older phone or something. I'm sorry about the confusion here, but what people see and what they don't see is sort of beyond my comprehension. But what it does normally is you click on that, it brings you to StreamYard, to that URL, and it says join a chat. And then I see you wanting to join, and then I ask you in. Hello, Melissa Smith. I'm trying to get Andrew to join here. Andrew is penfriends UK on Instagram, and he is just live broadcasting. And if it's not working for him here, maybe he and I can just do a live broadcast on Instagram. But let's just see if he can figure out how to get here, because it would be nice to be able to record it and have all of you guys in there too. I don't want reels. How do I make it go away? Drives me crazy. Well, the whole URL, you just put in Safari or Chrome. You should just automatically be to a place that you can do that. So it's Andrew, it's complicated. I don't know, I don't have the language in my 64-year-old brain to understand computer lingo very well, but StreamYard is what I'm using to broadcast to YouTube. And it allows me to invite a lot of people in and have sort of a Zoom-like experience. So the way to get people to come into it is they take the URL streamyard.com/ and then that 8CMX5N2HSW, and then that will bring you to the back room. And the back room will bring you to me, and then I will let you join in. Melissa, would you like to join in? just to show how it works, maybe. Do you see that? Penfriends, streamyard.com/8cmx blah, blah, blah. Do you see that? I took out the http:// but that's the address. Get your contacts in. We got them. Just a minute. Add to stream.
Hey, so I don't know quite how to flip the actual camera around because obviously I'm going to be doing it as some drawing this afternoon. So yeah.
Well, it doesn't work on my phone to switch the camera around, but it does work on my iPad. I got that button to do that with.
Right. Okay. I could try joining on the iPad.
I don't know.
The problem is I don't have a stand for it. So
that's okay. I mean, we don't have to do that now. I just thought it would be a fun way to chat a little bit.
Sure.
And one of the things that I did today while I was waiting for you, I did a little bird watercolor.
Oh, lovely. Let's have a look. Oh, that's beautiful.
The volcano in the background.
you went with the volcano.
I went with the volcano, and of course the bird is saying the sky is falling, and he's about to be brained by a chunk of the volcano there. So it's
the bird is not in a happy place.
Well, he'll be.
Oh, okay. I can
he'll
see
be
where
in
I can do it now. One moment. I'm just going to have a look at my camera, front camera, back camera. There we go.
It does work. Okay, good.
Superb.
Well, one of the things I thought would be that I thought might be fun is to maybe, I don't even know what I wanted to do because it was so long ago that I thought of it. So let me do this though. Let me turn my camera around.
Sure.
So no, we don't need you right now, Melissa. So let me switch my camera around. Camera, front camera, back camera. Okay, there. And I'm using, I'm about to be strangled by all of my power cords and
well, yeah, I'm
stuff.
I'm in a very claustrophobic space at the moment because I've got my tripod here, I've got my nightstand to my left, and I've got my bed just directly behind me. I've got like maybe a foot of space, but this is usual.
Okay, well, unusual about this. It seems like you and I are kind of the same in that way. But yeah. What's I normally have, I don't know where my regular people are, but normally I have many people, not dozens, but I have maybe 5 regulars here.
Okay.
And I don't know where they are, but some of my regulars are your regulars, and Corinne, whatever her name was.
Yeah, Carrie, I know her. She frequents my channel.
Yeah. Carrie was Karina was just here, and we were chatting. So I was discovering as I was using my brush, I kind of hold a brush the same way I hold a pen, except a little further back. But again, I'm not. I would think that holding a brush vertically, like the Japanese do with their sumi brushes, would make much more sense.
Yeah.
But
well, it would do. I think the thing is that with Japanese brushes, they tend to have a core to them, and that adds the stiffness. Whereas with these sort of Western brushes, which we've got, they're so springy that actually getting the control is really hard. Which is why I've got this, what was it, a De La Roni System 3, which is a bit stiffer. And you can sort of get some level control, but they're not great brushes. Well, this one's not great, at least. But I discovered quite a nice little technique today, which I thought I might have a go at doing, which is I'm going to do some cherry blossoms or sakura. And I thought that might be a fun thing to experiment with. If I can actually remove the actual tray. Yep, there we go. If I can find it. Oh, no, not there.
One of the thing that I have to do for this job, which requires watercolor, is to make this border that goes around the text of a wedding invitation.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm dealing with a middle woman who doesn't really understand broad differences in art, let alone subtleties.
Sure.
And as you know, watercolor is among the most diverse looks. You can have something that looks like Dürer, that's a Dürer painting that has horrifically great detail, and it almost looks like an oil painting or a gouache painting or something. And then you have John Singer Sargent that's very wet and airy and open. And then you've got people that use a lot of the fading qualities of bleeding and stuff, and bumpy paper and a lot of white showing through.
It's definitely one of the more diverse art mediums.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I send pictures of seascapes or something, all the same, subject matter.
Yeah.
Which kind do you want me to copy? I'm able to do whatever you want, but I have to know what kind.
You need to have direction, don't you?
So, and then, but the main problem, the main problem with it is the color that the bride wants is this dark burgundy, and this is going to be inkjet printed on paper, and then the text is going to be letterpressed.
Okay.
And I said, please have, they're telling me based on stuff that they see on their computer,
which
is staring into a freaking light bulb. Can you make it darker? No, print this out on a piece of paper, and then you'll see what the color is like.
Precisely.
You cannot tell by looking. So they're going to say, well, we're not going to do that till the printer gives us a proof. Well, it's going to be too late for me to do any changes. So what I'm doing is I'm going to do it'll all be in grayscale essentially, or I'll scan it in grayscale. And I can add a layer on top, and then I can add color on top of that. And I can tweak the colors easily without to redraw the whole goddamn thing. So anyway,
to be honest, working in grayscale is a great way to work anyway.
Well, it's the way I think.
And a lot of Dutch masters would always start off with obviously the amber layer, and then they would start going into the dead layer, which was black and white, and that would be essentially what would give you the tonality of the piece.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think of, color is the least in my mind, color is like the least important part of what makes a painting or a picture or a drawing or a watercolor actually interesting.
It's light,
it's the lights and darks, it's the balance of contrasts, it's all of that stuff.
Precisely.
And I would prefer to look at a Van Gogh drawing than a painting of his any day of the week. His drawings are so colorful, yet they're
Sure.
all black and white. And um, this is what I like to do. I like to take, a pen that has water soluble ink and then just doodle and draw, and then I add water, wash wet brush on top of it, and I come up with something that's vaguely interesting or not, depending
Sure.
on what I do. I do have one color, which is that burnt umber color here that I'm in Minnesota rather than Boston right now because I'm at my childhood home, and my brothers and I are trying to figure out what to do with it. My father died a year and a half ago, and then COVID happened, and then we put everything on hold in terms of whether we're going to keep the house or sell the house. And then we had a leak in the basement, and
So there's a combination of different things which just need to be rectified.
well, we have to fix everything in the basement had to be removed and dried out, and the rug, the carpeting had to be pulled up, and it's a walkout basement, so it's not entirely underground, but there was enough water to make it have to be torn apart so that no mold grows here.
Sure.
And then, so we're starting finally to select things that we inherited from my parents, my father, and put them on in antique shops and on KBid. It's called. It's sort of like an eBay, localized eBay kind of a thing. And,
yeah, we have similar things like that in the UK.
Yeah. So anyway, so my watercolors are in Boston, but I was able to find a few watercolor tubes here that still had juice in them. So
that's good.
But again, all I'm doing really, I may draw it in yellow and blue like I'm doing, just to make it interesting for me to draw. But I'm eventually going to turn it into a grayscale and then send that to the client, and they're going to say yes, and then I'm going to say fine, we'll go to the next step.
So do you say these are on invitation cards? Yes.
This will be printed on an invitation. Yes. The original will be inkjet printed, and then on top of that drawing will be letterpressed text, punched through that.
Yeah.
So but again, this particular middleman lady doesn't like me to talk directly to the clients because
which makes things a little bit trickier because you can get things lost in translation that way.
Which make things very complicated, and
yeah.
I end up, saying what I need, and then they remind me that, they don't actually convey the information I want conveyed. They convey half of it, or they think it might be
you never get quite the full story.
It might be too complicated or something. And so,
well, it will be what it will be, and
but
I'm sure the client.
Yeah, I'm
sure the client will love whatever you do.
I've already redrawn it once because the client decided that it looked or the client's mother decided, or whoever decided it looked too conservative, too traditional. They wanted it a little bit wackier. So more like this. And they showed me, something that's completely different. So it means that I get to start the meter again. It's going to be another couple $100. So,
well, if they're happy about that,
huh? Well, I don't know whether they're happy about it, but
if they're happy about that,
they understand it. I keep on telling my middle lady who doesn't quite understand, that work is involved while I do this, you know. And I said, well, imagine I'm a taxi driver and you get in the cab and you say,
and then you've got the meter running.
you want to go to, you know, an Italian restaurant, and halfway there you decide, no, I want Chinese. And then you turn the car around, you know, you don't start back at zero. You keep the meter running. You know, you can
Precisely.
you can make as many goddamn changes as you want, but you're paying for them. So
time is time, and time is money.
yeah. Well, she doesn't understand that.
No, they don't. I find that because one of my sort of part-time passions is photography, and the hardest sell with photography really is when you start getting into the more artistic side of it, is getting people to sort of see the actual merits of the actual picture.
Yeah.
If you're not trying to do something particularly artistic, or I guess surrealist, or with some sort of political message, actually trying to sell portraiture or landscapes is incredibly challenging, I found. You can be the best landscape photographer in the world, and it's a hard sell. It's not easy.
It's someone else joined us. I don't know who Ink Drinker is. Do you know Ink Drinker?
Just wanted to say it's lovely to see you fine people doodling away here on the internet.
Nice to meet you.
Who are you, Ink Drinker? Oh, so much for that. Did you recognize that? Did you recognize the voice?
No, I didn't.
He sounded a little bit as if he was from your part of the world, the British Isles, or
no, I don't recognize them.
Okay. Yeah, it is difficult when you're dealing with. It's just really hard for me to deal with middle people when especially middle people that don't understand. And you know, I look at a sample of, you know, they say we want it to look like this. Well, I immediately see some aspect of the thing that I think is important, and it might be a cartoony effect, let's say. There was someone that they wanted me to do this drawing of the Boston Public Library, and they showed me and they want it to look like this, and they sent me a line drawing of, you know, a couple of buildings on a street. Well, this line drawing was done very casually, shall I say, and you know, there were windows that look kind of like this, you know, and you know, these are all meant to be in a line, you know, above each other, but I can see that one's a little crooked. And, you know, this is sort of fun and festive, and I don't know if that's what they want. And I don't even know if they even see that it's crooked, or that the perspective is off or something. And so then I have to, you know, it's something I could very, very easily, if they were sitting across from me, I can say, okay, I see X, Y, and Z. Is this what you want? And they'd say, oh, we like X and Y, but we really don't like Z. And I said, okay, well, that's important to know. My middleman wouldn't understand any of this.
Yeah, that's yeah. When you're trying to convey things, but I mean, is it because they're particularly private, these clients, and they just want someone to arrange everything, or they just don't want to have anything to do with the arranging?
I think this particular middle lady thinks that brides are very fragile things that she has to sort of mother, and you know, bring all of the dirty sausage making of a wedding. You know, everything is brought on a silver platter. Everything has to be finished. You know, I can't show her that. It's not finished. And I said, well, I want you to show her this, so I know that I'm on the right track.
Precisely.
Well,
You have to have that sort of, well, it makes it cheaper for them at the end of the day, because if you get to a certain point where, you know, you feel satisfied, that in your mindset is sort of almost like job done.
Yeah.
But if they're not happy with it, it's wasted time. And
it's wasted time, and they're wasted
I
money.
always show pictures before I edit.
Yeah. And then my enthusiasm plummets almost immediately when I'm doing any project, but it really plummets when I'm being, you know, when my hands are tied behind my back and I'm forced to do what they want. And then when I'm forced to do it again, it really pisses me off. So, but when we get to do things,
naturally.
See, now if they just wanted this, this is a beautiful thing that could come in the mail. they could. So anyway, it's just very funny.
Yeah, it's, I think what really annoys me is that you get to a point and say, well, I really like this and I really like that, and could you do this? And you say, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll get that done. Actually, maybe not. Could you go back? Would you mind just stepping that back a two or something? No, just go forwards again. It's like you play this game of cat and mouse.
Yeah.
And that is so frustrating. So frustrating.
Yeah. It's just you know, the middleman, I think, also is charging. She's probably taking what she's paying me and telling the client it's costing twice that, or whatever amount. I mean, they're able to sell my services for whatever they want, but the services,
of course.
But there are other people that don't add anything. You know, they're getting money for the invitation that's being designed. They don't have to tack on money from me. I mean, normally you can, you know, I think it's legitimately understandable if you add 10 or 15% on top of any vendor cost for your trouble.
No, that's right. Yeah, that's fine.
But if you double it or you triple it or you do something else, it's it seems a little dishonest. And so I don't know if she's, you know, how much she's adding on top of it, but I keep on saying that.
Well, she must be adding a fair amount.
She might,
because obviously she wants to get paid.
Yeah. Well, but she's getting paid. She's getting paid by the client for creating an invitation. I'm just a part of that invitation. And then, you know, she'll be in charge of having the invitation printed. So she'll be getting all sorts of little bits and pieces on top of her charge. So she's not going to starve, even if she gives all of the money.
Oh gosh, no.
That you know, even if she only charges the model what, you know, she's doing. But again, she's someone who makes it extra. There's always twice as many emails that go back and forth between us because she doesn't do things in the order that I want. So anyway, Miss Marilyn, Miss Marilyn Darling is in the room. Hello, Marilyn. And
hello.
This is a artist.
I'm keeping an eye on the chat on the computer at the same time.
This is
keeping an eye on the chat at the same time. Hello, Marilyn.
This is Andrew from England somewhere. And what do I hear that's noisy? That sounds like you're eating with very noisy chopsticks in the back.
I'm hearing it too on my side, but I don't know whether it's us or what.
It might just be.
There we go. There was a hand there.
It might be, if you have earplugs in, it might be the speaker hitting your shirt or button or something. But it's just I just don't know what it is.
No, nor do I. It's we'll just have to pretend we're broadcasting from the 1930s.
Yeah, that's okay. Yes, we're speaking via transcription services. Oh.
Oh, you're getting a phone call.
Um, so in terms of the pens you collect, you're a modern pen person, right, Andrew?
Well, I'm only a modern pen person because I've only just really got into collecting fountain pens.
Okay.
As of December 2019, and it's not that I don't want to have vintage pens, but I want to learn the process of actually restoring them myself.
I see.
Rather than sending the people. But I do have somewhere what was it? Hang on. Let me see if I can find it. It's a Conway Stewart I've got somewhere, but I do plan on getting some vintage pens down the line.
Okay. Well, you know, you had talked about the famous Pierre Gustafson test that Wasky Squirrel does.
Oh yes.
And I just thought I could explain to you why I do that and where it came from originally. And
yeah,
you know, I've been collecting vintage pens for nearly 40 years.
Oh wow.
And 40
okay. What prompted you to start collecting pens in the first place?
I heard about on All Things Considered, U.S. news program. I heard about this lady in Minnesota who sold pens at a pen shop, and I went there the next weekend and bought 3 pens. All of them were 2 were vintage, 1 was modern, and I wanted a flexible nib. And she sold me a pen, Eversharp Symphony pen from the 40s for $12, or was it 18? I forget. And it had the most flexible nib ever on it, and I was hooked. Later, then I started looking at antique shops and flea markets and finding old pens, and they didn't really make modern fountain pens. Mont Blanc made them. Maybe Schaefer had cartridge pens. Parker had the Parker 75, and the Parker 45 maybe, but really most pens were.
Sorry, just 1 moment, Pierre.
Were not being made. Yeah.
One second. Pardon? We'll be back. I'll be down in a moment. Sorry about that, Pierre.
That's okay.
Okay.
And so I started going to antique shops and finding old pens, and I would the woman that owned the pen shop died, and I learned how to fix old American pens pretty easily. It's just essentially putting a sack in the pen. So the people that bought the company, the store that she had, sold me the rubber sacks. So by the time, and then I started meeting I didn't really meet pen people, but I ended up buying their store, all of the stock that they bought. And I suddenly had overnight, I went from 200 pens to about 5,000 pens in one.
Oh my goodness.
In one afternoon. And then I started going to pen shows and learning about how pens worked and what they look like and how to fix them. And so during this time, using old pens was really the only thing I did. And people I would occasionally fix pens for people, and they would bring me pens that were more modern pens, and they were modern Mont Blancs made in the 80s, let's say. And they'd say,
Sure.
my pen skips all the time. And most of the modern pens that were made in the 80s had very, very sluggish feeds on them. So of course they skipped unless you wrote really, really slow. And I write very fast and I draw very fast. And all modern pens seem to skip on me. And I'm very happy to learn by watching Lasky Squirrel do the world famous Pierre Gustafson test that most of the new pens that he buys do not skip. So they have decided to make them work better than they were making them work before.
So is there a particular era where fountain pens really were sort of, I guess, not necessarily performing particularly as perhaps in previous eras?
Well, they didn't.
Because
None
I
of them.
know obviously in the 60s.
In my mind, Andrew, no modern pen, no matter how good it's made, can do as well as the old pen. You cannot find you can find flexible nibs these days, but they're not fine flexible. They're only flexible. You can find broad nibs. Making things big and fat is how we do things these days. And whether it's your car or your SUV or your house or whatever, big and fat is the plan. And thin and fine and subtle and fragile is much, much, much more difficult to make and to sell, because the person that's buying it is going to break it. They're going to press down too hard and break it. And so they make them sort of idiot proof in that way. So, this pen I'm using right now, this is a Schaefer Triumph nib pen, and this fine nib on it is so much finer than any fine that is made today. And it's just an angstrom wide or whatever it is. I don't know how you measure really fine things. But it's just so very, very fine. And then the very, very flexible nibs. The very flexible nibs are
for anyone who was wanting to get into getting a good beginner's flexible vintage fountain pen, what would your recommendation be?
There are a couple. A good one is a Eversharp Skyline. Now, not all of them are going to be flexible. This is one that I'm selling or sending off to Melissa Smith to try. This one has it's the fine nib is not overly fine, but it's very rubbery.
Sure.
You see that?
Yeah.
And this one, it won't feel scratchy because it's not really overly fine. Almost any fine pen will feel scratchy. And then people will take it on their emery board and they'll grind it down or file it down or smooth it. And what they do is they take the very fine point and they make it into a medium or broad. So they screw it up by doing that. And I tell people, fine, by its nature, you're dealing with one atom on one tine and another atom on the other tine, and it's going to be sharp. Those atoms are really tiny, so and
I think that's another thing which I've noticed with modern fountain pens is that depending on which continent you're going to, and even from manufacturer to manufacturer, the actual nib grade, be it like fine. I mean, I've got a fine in a gold nib from Leonardo, Officina Italiana, and I could swear it's more like a medium to bold. And it's all over the shop.
No, one man's medium is another man's broad, and Japanese pens tend to have a finer. Everything is moved toward the narrow end, where I think American manufacturers, if there are any such things, we might have moved everything toward the broader. Countries that have had a tradition of continuing using fountain pens, like maybe France or Germany, maybe Italy too, and Japan, because they never really stopped in the same way that Americans did with ballpoint pens, that they kept the fountain pens doing what they do well, which is to provide a beautiful nib and a nice selection of nibs. And so it is interesting, the differences you get. But if you, Andrew, I could send you 3 or 4 pens and you can try them out just to see what you think. You
Sure,
don't have
that's
to,
very
you don't
kind
have to, you don't have to buy them. You just pay the postage and stuff. And
yeah.
just because I think it's really important for people that have never used an old pen before to try out, to see what I think, not I think, but what we humans thought flexible meant in 1910, which is
Sure.
very different than what humans think flexible means in 2010. And
Well, I mean, of course, we live in a modern market, and whilst flexible nib fountain pens is something which, amongst many collectors, is something which is very desired. Most people which buy a fountain pen these days really just want to have something which they can write with, and they're not necessarily looking for the expression.
Oh.
I tend to think it's really more like the calligraphers of the
fix,
world and
the
thanks. Artists of the world which are really more interested into it.
I was just gifted some pens. Would you like to see? This came from
Yeah, I'd love to.
My brother works at a school.
Yeah, fantastic.
One of his
look at that, a Parker
cohorts. So there's a Parker 45.
Nice.
And a Wherever Leverfill pen in bright red.
Wow, look at that.
And another Parker 40. No, this is a Parker 21 Special. Wow.
Okay.
And an Esterbrook. Ta-da! I just have four more pens in my collection. Now I have 3,004. So,
oh gosh, that is a sizable collection.
Huh?
That is a sizable collection.
It is. I think if you were to have 10 serious collectors in my house looking at my collection, meaning serious, sophisticated, snobby collectors, there might be 10 pens that are interesting to them.
Sure.
Because most of my pens are modest, and many of them are in conditions that are not great. They have teeth marks or names engraved on them, which some people don't like, and I love them. I don't necessarily like the teeth marks, but I do like the engraved names. And so
they do tell a story, don't they?
Well, they tell a story, but they're also
I do wonder at times,
even if they don't have Divorce, would you like to join us? Neville? Neville is this guy that is a divorce lawyer, and he is a nut. I'm just warning you, he's a nut. He's very funny, and he's a pen collector and wants me to fix his Frankenpen.
It's Frankenpen. What Frankenpen do we have here then?
Well, he wants a Frankenpen. He has had a Frankenpen of mine that I made with a nib from 1880, a gold dip pen nib from 1880, put in a Parker Senior dual fold. And somewhere down the line, the nib broke, and he sent it to me, and 1907-ish Aiken. I think it's older than that, Neville. So, Andrew, here's one of my Frankenpens. So
that's a nice overlay you got on there.
Huh?
Nice overlay on that.
Yeah, so the back of it is this silver. I don't think it's sterling, but it's a silver color overlay, and it's a big eye drop fill
That's a
pen.
big
But
old nib.
look at that nib.
That's going to be flexible, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's.
Look at that.
Let's see if I can make it go boinga boinga. That's the term that I adopted for Ms. Marilyn on a pen I sold her. So here's, the fine is not as fine as I like them to be, but I love the
Ooh, look at that.
that it has.
That's a ton of flex in there, isn't it?
And
wow,
it's really quite lovely. And Neville wants to come up to Boston. He's in Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, nice.
So it's an hour drive, and he'll come up and visit. But but anyway, so a Skyline pen is a good one to start with, because if you can find a Skyline that's flexible,
it will be good.
The nibs are really springy and very sturdy. A Waterman pen from the Waterman 52 or a Waterman number 12 from 1900 to 1920 are great too, if you find a flexible nib, and almost all of them are flexible, but they're just a little tiny bit more fragile than this one.
Now, a friend of mine on Instagram, she just actually posted a whole raft of vintage Watermans. I couldn't say precisely what models they were, but she hasn't decided on the price yet. And that's partly why I was asking, because I know Waterman do have a very good reputation.
Yeah.
Especially in the vintage sphere. It's just a shame the modern iterations of Waterman
if you want to
quite really live up to their old reputation.
If they're old, if they're from 1940 or before, I can tell you roughly whether I think they'd have a nice nib and whether you should buy it. Now, one of the things about prices, and I mentioned this to anyone getting into a vintage pen market, is that if you go to a pen show and you see this identical pen in 3 different locations, and one is $20 and one is $100 and one is $120, all of those prices are correct, because the person that selling it for $20 hates that kind of pen and is having a liver transplant next week and needs the money. The person that paid $125 or wants $125 for it really loves that pen, knows that it's a slightly rare color or something, knows some factoid about that pen that other people might not know, and maybe they paid $50 to have it fixed, So, and for buying pens that are repaired is not a bad idea. You may not be saving a lot of money by trying to buy one that's not repaired. I don't think that should be a sticking point.
No.
For a pen, normal pens, if I'm fixing a normal pen and it's an easy berth, it's an easy fix where everything comes apart the way they're supposed to, and I put a sack on the pen, I might spend 10 minutes and $2 to do it. If it's if it's difficult to fix and I have to use heat and soak it, and I have to end up putting a different feed in the pen, and I have to do all sorts of other nonsense, it's going to be a lot more. But I don't restore pens. I'm not one of those people who takes every single part of the pen apart and cleans it. I make sure
you just get it back to its sort of writing ability.
Yeah, I get it so it flows through. The ink flows through. I put a new sack on it. I make sure the ink flows and that doesn't skip, and I call it a day.
That's
But
fair enough. Yeah, I
but
mean,
but
at the end of the day, I mean, that's really what a pen is for.
yeah,
Is for
but
writing.
a friend of mine on this channel here, Affextinol, bought some pens from me, and he said he chose against buying a pen that he initially wanted, but he had a selection, and I was fine with it. And he said he finally cleaned out that pen that he decided he didn't want, and it works perfectly now because there was so much crud in it that I didn't see. So, and
Fair enough.
you know, the so anyway, it's just fascinating. And Miss Marilyn Darling doesn't allow a molecule of ink to stay in any of her pens when she's done with them. She has got to, you know, clean every little bit out, and that's certainly not what I do.
So pens have lots of other uses besides writing. Yeah, of course they do. Yeah, I mean,
Coat rack, you nail
although I
one into
write
the
my
wall, and you've got a
pens,
perfectly good coat rack. So Neville, are you going to join us or not?
I mean, I write obviously with my fountain pens, but it's not my prime use for it. I tend to use them really more for artistic
Drawing.
merits.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only reason why I got really into collecting fountain pens was primarily because I had about 6 or 7 different grades of fine liners, and I've got nothing against fine liners. I think fine liners are absolutely fantastic, but I really wanted to be able to reduce the amount of pens which I needed in order to be able to produce a drawing.
Yeah.
And fountain pens really offered that, because for a good majority of the pens which I have, they will reverse write, and
okay. Good. That's
that
important
is to me it's a godsend
for drawing. I love some pens I do reverse writing with. Normally pens that are relatively firm, Schaefer, Triumph nib pens, and Parker 51s, things like that. I wouldn't really ever do it on a pen that's flexible.
No.
But
no, because it's too soft.
it's a little too soft. Divorce, you don't have to get dressed on our account. Just put on a shirt. I don't know whether you have people on your feeds that chat while they're naked, Andrew, but evidently I do.
Nothing wrong with freedom of clothes. We have, well, unfortunately the gentleman's passed away, but we had quite an infamous naturist in our village, and whoever used to cut his grass for him, because he was in his 90s, he would always be in his birthday suit.
Oh, well, a 90-year-old birthday suit might be a little tattered.
Just a little bit. But you know, all the power to him. You know, he used to go to naturist camps, and he'd have a whale of a time.
Yeah, well, those, you know, there's, you know, in America, I wish we had that tradition more, because, you know, we are so stuck up with our prudishness. So, is Affextinol in the room?
Things will change.
I'm just trying to see if there's other people that are normally in the room that you might enjoy talking with as well.
Sure.
I normally don't like having more than 3 or 4, because the pictures get too small.
Of course.
But it's fun sometimes when we do get
a few people on.
a few more people on. And one of the things that my customership are calligraphers, collectors to some degree, calligraphers, writers, not really writers, calligraphers, and artists. But there's a lot of journal keepers out here, and those are the people that I don't really know what they're like. That's why Adventure Denali is really interesting to me, and why Effects Denal is really interesting to me, because they don't use the pens in the same way that I use, that you and I
No,
use the pen, Andrew. They're holding the pen in their hand, and they're not copying an address beautifully or a poem or something. They're holding the pen in their hand, and they're crafting a sentence that's never been written before.
of
And
course.
a lot of people that are doing that, they like the pen to almost disappear. And you and I
Yeah,
like that too, but we also maybe understand the tool aspect of it better. And maybe we're a little tiny bit more aware of it because of that. Whereas, a pen for a writer who's crafting words, maybe a pen that is the least ostentatious, the least showy, the most smooth, the most whatever, might work better for them. But again, this is the thing that I'm trying to learn
well,
about from them.
that's the wonderful thing about collecting fountain pens, is that it does afford people the choice of how to use their tools. If they want to use it for journaling, if they want to use it for corresponding with pen friends, or for writing, or for inspiring other people. There's a million ways to actually use your fountain pen to really spread the word of how wonderful they really are. And I think, even though we do live in a digital age, we have so much appreciation for the analog. We've now got people getting back into film photography. We've got people getting back into drawing and painting, and it's a big industry now. I would say in these, like, the early 2000s, whilst there was popularity with it, you really can't help but escape the fact that places like YouTube and Instagram have really skyrocketed the sort of industry for analog tools.
Yeah, and COVID certainly has helped
Well, yeah,
us.
I mean, I would never have started my YouTube sort of ventures had it not been for COVID.
Yeah.
It just never was on my radar. And there was a few sort of self-improvement things which I really wanted to concentrate on, specifically communication and how I present myself to people. So that's really why I started doing YouTube in the first place, was to try and sort of improve on those skills. And it's not really a case of trying to get millions of subscribers, but just really trying to further my sort of communication skills and speak in a more coherent manner.
Yeah.
So that's why I really started it.
Are you a shy person underneath?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I've never really been a sociable person, but certainly it's been great being a part of a crowd of people which have a shared common interest. And I have to say, out of all the hobbies which I've explored in the past, the fountain pen community is certainly one of the best I've been in, specifically because people just have a shared love for everything which is related towards fountain pens, whether it's your $5 platinum preppy or your $10,000 the Mickey Emperor with Mackie, or the vintage pens. No one seems to be jealous of people's collections, which is wonderful. And you get this, though, unfortunately, in, say, like with the photography market. You either get gear envy or gear acquisition syndrome, and there's a certain amount of toxicity to that sort of.
Well, I think there can be
community,
in the very high what some people might call serious pen collectors, where
Sure.
they're breathing such high rarefied air that they don't know what the rest of the world is doing anymore, because their brain is they don't get enough oxygen to the brain. But but almost every single one of those people that are up in that high echelon are not pen users. They
No,
collect them
they're
like
collectors.
they collect them as if they were Tiffany eggs. I'm sorry,
Of course.
Fabergé eggs, and it's and they're very difficult to deal with because they only see, oh, this is my blue duofold is bluer than your blue duofold. It's like, okay, this little pissing war that they're having, and then they also love to say how cheap they got them for. It's so they're not pen
I
collectors.
only spent $4,000 on this.
They're just they're bargain collectors. And
Of course.
I don't like them. I'll say it right here. I don't like them.
No.
But the
That's fair enough.
people that use the pens, and
Well, there's no
that's
pens
a
here which doesn't
completely
get used.
different group of people, and they all love meeting other people that, quote, are crazy like they are, because we're surrounded by people that don't understand it, and when they can meet people
Sure.
that
I
get
mean,
it,
at the end of the day, I just see them as tools which allow me to write and feel good about that. So I mean, I think my most expensive pen is my Leonardo. What was it? Leonardo Memento Zero Grande, but it's in the Arco material, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's a great pen, and it sometimes having something which is nice, it does make you feel special, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pierre, do forgive me a second. I'm getting called.
Okay.
I'll be back in a moment.
Okay.
Apologies about that.
Okay. So have you been to a pen show? You probably haven't been to a pen show yet.
No, not yet. Unfortunately, I started collecting, and I had the opportunity of going to the Bristol pen show.
Okay.
I didn't have any available cash at the time to buy pens, so consequently, no, I haven't been to any pen shows yet. But
well,
hopefully October, I will be going to a pen show.
Okay, good. And you're near London or in London or where?
I'm not a million miles from London. I try to avoid London as much as possible, just purely because it's expensive. But there's a few things I want to go. A few places in London I would like to visit.
Well, there might be a local pen group that meets or will start meeting before pen shows happen. And even if there's a way for you to connect up with one pen collector there that does have old pens, you might enjoy that. That.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Connection.
I'm a part of the UK Southwest Pen Club, Unfortunately, I've not actually met up with them in person. We've only just done Zoom calls, but
Okay. Yeah.
I joined
Well,
them up
with
during
pen,
COVID.
yeah, with pens, it's of course important to try them out and see what they feel like. But I'm gonna do something quick here. I'll be right back. But
No
Melissa
problems. You
wanted to
take your time.
know what sort of paper we're using, and
I'm just using Winsor & Newton Smooth Surface 150-gram cartridge paper, because I haven't got any watercolor paper at the moment, but it seems to be taking the watercolor perfectly okay.
I'll be right back.
In terms of so Melissa, in terms of other papers, I mean, there's so many. I think it really comes down to like personal preference at the end of the day, what you really enjoy writing on. I've always been a fan more of smooth papers, but you know, if I felt that a picture would do better for being on a more textured surface, then I've got no issues with that. How about yourself? Same question back to you, Melissa. What are you into using?
Okay, I am returned.
Welcome back again.
Yes.
I mean, most manufacturers produce really good paper. I know Canson has got quite a good reputation for watercolor paper. Winsor & Newton, Tayloroni, they've all got good reputations. And then there's tons of paper. Japanese paper that can be very nice. Just depending on what your intended purposes are. Cosmos Air Light for sort of writing on is amazing because it will show off your qualities. Tomoe Rivers, always very popular here in the West, although actually, oddly, it's not as popular in Japan, surprisingly.
Huh.
But yeah, who'd have thought?
Maybe it's not good for sumi ink and brush painting. I don't imagine it would be. So
no, it's too thin.
Maybe.
And for most Japanese people, they use cartridges anyway. So even though they've got a massive amount of ink coming from companies like Sailor and Koyonoto, actually cartridges in Japan are more popular. Who would have thought?
Yes,
By a good 30-40% margin.
Well, we have 11 people in the room. Who are these people? I would like to know who these people.
One of my favourite notebooks is by Pebble Stationery Company, and I am obsessed with Sakura petals, which is why I'm doing them today.
Okay.
Let me show you what I've got here. So this is my sort of test paper.
Yeah.
I'll let my feed catch up. So it's great. I mean, it's great paper. It shows off the qualities of ink.
Yeah.
And I don't use it for anything other than just testing out ink and phrases, because it's too thin really for any other purposes. But yeah, it's good paper. It's good paper, and I like the design on it.
Yeah, I my favorite papers to write on are old ledger books from 1880s through the teens, sometimes a little later. and they're beautiful smooth paper, and it's fun to see the handwriting that used to be there. You know, I'm not ruining any important documents. It's just
Sure.
they're just, you know, what some general store sold on Tuesday, October 3rd in 1892. So I did
I can
want,
imagine that's
I
a
wish
nice
I kept,
experience to write on.
I wish I had kept these books, but I bought about 10 books, and they were bound ledger books that were all falling apart, but they were Salem's record or inventory of in the poorhouse. And what they would do is they would write down a name of one of their inmates or their whatever they're called, boarders, and they would send a bill to the city where they were actually from. So Salem, Massachusetts would send a bill to Gloucester, Massachusetts for housing Gloucester's poor. And they would say,
Okay.
you know, Sarah Jones, family of 6, 1 week, you owe us $1.50 or whatever, whatever it was. And, but it was beautiful paper, and I would just go through that, just testing up pens and ink, and but I'm sure some poor doctorate student who wanted to write something about the poor in Salem, Massachusetts in 1897 will have to go elsewhere to find that information because it's all been thrown away by now. But one of the games that we play here, Andrew, that you might enjoy, I was showing all of the different handwritings that I saw in a guest house book, a guest book for a house in Florence, and
Okay.
and it was from 1907 to 1956, and it was interesting to see the handwriting change and the pens sort of change over time, and the names that were popular. There were a hell of a lot of Melissas back then. And anyway, it got me to think of a fun little quiz, or not a quiz, but a little thought experiment that I gave to my viewers, and I'll give to you. If you could have a dinner party for 6 or 8 people, including yourself, who would you invite? And they can be living or dead, and let's pretend they all speak the same language.
Okay.
So from any time period, any
time period.
any whatever. And
That's a good question.
it's really
one person
fun.
I know who I've always wanted to meet throughout time was Joan of Arc.
Joan of Arc,
I think
okay.
Joan of Arc, yeah.
Did you really see those
primarily
things, or
because
what? Okay, Joan of Arc. Okay.
Joan of Arc would be one. I would like to meet Henry VIII and try and understand why he was such a womanizer.
Henry VIII, VIII.
Yeah.
Okay, Henry VIII. Okay.
Who else would I like to meet?
You want to have him sit?
I'd like to have Anne Boleyn at the same party.
Oh,
because I just think the dynamic would be really interesting.
Okay. Do you want her head on the plate or just her?
No. I want to hear both their side of the story. So
I see. Okay.
Find out what was going on in their heads.
So far, we've got a lot of historical from you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm not a historian, but I'm interested in history.
Okay.
There's a number of people. I mean, there are people which are still alive, which I'd like to potentially meet. I'd like to, just trying to remember I think it's Jacques de Molay. Yeah, Jacques de Molay, the one of the last Templars. It's another person I'd like to meet.
Okay, what's his name again?
Jacques de Molay.
Jacques Queuscq de Molay, Molet,
Yeah.
or something.
I'm just Jacques de Molay is JACQHUES. Then Molay as MOLAY.
AY, okay. I was adding E, Molay. Jacques de Molay is what is he again? A Templar.
The
Templar.
23rd and
Templar.
last
A
Grand
native
Master of the Knight Templar.
Knight Templar. Okay. So we've got and he'll have something to say to Joan of Arc. Certainly, they'll have
yes,
they'll have a little argument or something.
I think Joan of Arc's sort of mentality was very much in alignment to the Templars.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, being a woman back in that century, she was really outspoken. She was considered dangerous.
Yeah. Those
Goodness knows
dames,
what they would make of some of the women today.
Those noisy dames. Well, Melissa Smith wants JFK, Marilyn Monroe, Stephen King, Dumas, and maybe William Shakespeare. So that's
Shakespeare,
good.
yeah, now that would be an interesting one.
You can ask him if he really wrote those
Vincent
plays.
Van Gogh, actually.
You can ask him if he really wrote those plays or it was that other guy.
I think Vincent Van Gogh would be really interesting because he suffered from a lot of mental health problems.
Van Gogh?
And
okay.
Yeah, he never sold anything. And I just think it'd be absolutely wonderful for him to come into the 21st century as one of the most sort of recognized and prominent artists known to mankind, and for him to be able to see the sort of results of his works.
Yeah, I don't know whether he would understand any of it. I mean, I'm just trying to think of him being put into a position, even if it was 10 years ahead of his time, where his paintings were considered valuable by someone other than himself. I don't think, I it'd be very curious. Any Monty Pythoners in there? Oscar Wilde? Any?
Oh yes.
Wits and wags in your group?
That would be fun, wouldn't it?
It's really a fun little assignment, little thought experiment, which I love.
Oh, definitely.
Giving people, so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Monty Python was great. It was so silly.
Yeah.
But genius. It was so well scripted. I'd like to meet Rowan Atkinson as well someday.
Oh, yeah. I mean, his Mr. Bean just drives me mental, but I liked some of his Blackadder isms. I didn't like all of them, but I do like.
I thought Blackadder Goes Forth was probably the best out of all of them because
which one?
Blackadder Goes Forth, because in the sort of World War I, it was sort of making light of it, but in many ways, it's sort of the comedy reflects that of the time because they would have a laugh out the trench, because if you didn't, you would go crazy, and it really does bring together some of the sort of eras specific events and the thought processes which went on with High Command. Of course, High Command would not act in the same ways as it was in
I love
but
Stephen Fry's. I'd like to have Stephen Fry at a dinner party. I think he'd be great. Stephen Fry's General Haig or Kitchener. He was sort of more of a Kitchener character there in those.
Oh, definitely.
Those. I was going to tell you something, and what the hell was it now? Pierre Gustafson, think, use your brain. I think I'd really love to get your. I think a really fun person to have at a dinner party would be the naturalist, the British guy, Atkinson. No, what's his name? Not Atkinson. Who's the he talks kind of like this. Here we are in the polar.
Oh, David Attenborough. David
Attenborough. I think he would be really, really great to have at a dinner party. And
sure.
it would be fun to hear him try to describe the social behavior of the people. And here you have the wallflower, not paying any attention. Have you seen the movie?
He would be brilliant.
Have you seen the movie called "Oh, What a Lovely War"?
Yes, I have.
That's one of my favorites. I just love the in and out of reality, and that the Brighton Pier and fantasy and stuff, and it's just a delightful movie, I think.
It is a great movie, isn't it? I mean, actors generally aren't like high on my list, but there are a few actors which are so clever, which I would like to meet. And Rowan Atkinson being, quite well educated. Sorry, one moment, Pierre. Alexa, hang up.
Okay.
Alexa, hang up. Yes. You should have got my email. What?
I like those 51 holders too, divorce.
I'm going to have to make my apologies here.
Okay.
But I've got to go and start cooking dinner for the parents.
Okay. One of my guests for my dinner, I think, is going to be Noel Coward. I love his his wit and his songs and his lyrics are just brilliant, I think. But anyway, let's turn our cameras around and say goodbye with our faces.
Of course. Yeah, let me just put my camera back onto front. Hang on.
There you are, half of you. There you are, all of you.
There I am.
Anyway, there's a little lag there a little bit, but this was fun. And, I'm trying to get Adventure Denali on board here one day. I don't know why she's so hard to get a hold of, but I think it would be fun. Anyone else that you think would be fun to do this with? Either.
Sure. I'll give you some recommendations.
And do you StreamYard is what I'm using to do this, and it's really an easy way to get 3 or 4 people side by side, and it's recorded automatically on YouTube. So if it might be something you might like to try, and it's free for a certain amount.
I'll see if I can potentially join us someday.
Yeah, it's free for a certain number of hours a month, but I go over that because I just babble forever. But anyway,
right, I shall see you soon, Pierre.
Okay, very good. Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's just us. I wonder what that crackling noise was. Why that was that popping noise that we were getting. My thought was it might be his speaker on his earphone was rubbing against a shirt, but I don't know. I'm wondering if I'm going to, does anyone else in the room want to get on for a little bit here? Oh shit. My power is almost gone on this thing, so maybe I should use this opportunity to sign off and do my watercolor job and charge it up. I'm not sure if my I'm not sure whether my brother is going to have me do some work or not, but I'll find that out as well. And we have 12 people watching us. I don't know who these, I know who some of the 12 are, but I don't know who many of them are. Melissa, Marilyn, Divorce. I don't know who else is still watching. But it's nice having 12. I don't think I've really ever gotten 12 before. A bit of Fry and Laurie. I do like that show. I don't like Mr. Bean. Oh, Joshua, you're here. I didn't know you were here. Oh, Mighty just came in. Okay. Yeah. Now, who would you want to invite? That's what you can think about for our next time we do this. I'm writing these imaginary dinner parties in the guest book that you gave me, Neville. There's a lot of blank pages in the back, and I'm using that to record our imaginary parties. I don't know if it'll come through. Send me a text or something using some other device. I don't know whether links show up. And if I click on it, of course, it'll go somewhere else and it'll be chaos. So well, thank you for joining us. I think I am going to stop this now and just see what's happening with my brother and our plans for today. So you be good, everyone. Talk to you later.